I don't know if I'll be able to do this in court, so I want to pre-record this. My name is Michael Dirksen, and this is my victim impact statement for Brando Walker's murder, my little brother. I am writing you with hope to even give the slightest hint of the emotional pain and hurt this great loss is to me and everyone who knew Brando. I want to start by saying, for as long as I live, my life will never be the same. Not only dealing with the loss of my brother, but the absolute tragedy of the individuals who used Brando, who played on his illness, who tortured him, and who murdered him in cold blood. For months I have cried in anger and disbelief. I see the sun rise, driving to work, and I have had to pull over and cry because I was emotionally unable to concentrate on my driving due to the thought that my brother will never be able to see the sunrise and feel the warmth or see the sunset ever again because of these individuals who senselessly took his life away. He will never be able to see his 8-year-old nephew, my son, ever again. How do you explain to an 8-year-old that his uncle has gone away forever and he will never get to see him again? I can tell you, he was heartbroken. As was I. I could never tell him how this happened, though. I had cried so many nights I cannot count, and felt so sick to my stomach I could not work, eat, or sleep, or have the will to do anything. When friends or relatives are around, it gets so uncomfortable for them because they do not even want to talk because they are at a loss for what to say because of the deep impact this has had on my life. There are many days when I feel completely lost in the sadness, and I wish I could have just one more conversation. See one more of his big, joyous smiles, or have one more family dinner with everyone. But he is gone. And I can never do any of these ever again and never get to say goodbye. Having our family dinners without him or watching my mom cry. If you've never experienced these, I would pray that you never have to. For it is such a heavy feeling of sadness and injustice, it is incomparable. When I hug my sisters, we oftentimes hate to let go because of the sadness it brings to be alive, and Brando is not, and to leave each other because we never know if it is our last goodbye. This Christmas will be our first Christmas in our lives without him, and I can already tell you it hurts so much. I've never had a hard time working or feeling the will to do daily things I must, but with the sadness in my heart, it can be most difficult sometimes to even get out of bed. Since Brando's murder, I am now taking 225 milligrams of antidepressants to try to help cope with everyday sadness in my life. I often get a gut-wrenching sick feeling when watching television shows or movies because the things that have never bothered me before make me sick, and it literally hurts to watch some things. In the immediate time around Brando's murder, I could not face the world, and it took a few weeks off work to grieve, but to no avail. The anger and hurt I could not shake. But no amount, I think, could heal the loss of my brother, and it is something I will have to deal with every day for the rest of my life. Anger. What a word. A word to describe a feeling, and I looked it up, and the definition online is the strong feeling of annoyance, displeasure, or hostility. Now I can tell you the amount of anger that I have goes beyond any of that. To me, it is an immeasurable feeling of displacement in the trust of people and their ability to do good over evil in this world. The amount of anger I have for those responsible for the murder of my brother is not something that can be truly measured, but over time just slowly becomes easier to manage with each day. When I think of the individuals responsible for his murder, there is not only fears that I experience for myself, like a fear of possible contact with those who may have been associated with the individuals and some sort of retaliation against myself or my family. But that's not all I fear. I fear what I may do if I were to make contact with those individuals responsible for taking away the life of my 18-year-old brother, who had yet to experience the greatness that life can be. What would I do if confronted with the cold-blooded killers of my brother? I do not know, and I do not wish to find out either. I would hope that the goodness in my heart and God would prevail, but to this I cannot be certain. How much and what is justice when a child of 18 years young is murdered, when a life is taken away from not only family and friends, but most of all, taken away from precious life itself? Is it enough to say that his life can never be replaced and his life can never be reconciled? There will never be another Brando Walker, my brother, my friend, and my family. My family and I will never recover from this loss. So what is justice? What is justice for Brando? Is it justice to say that even in his death, he would not want harm to come to those individuals responsible for his murder? But he would want justice to be served, but not on his behalf, but because he cared. He cares about how much everyone else is lost, and how much we all hurt, and how much we're saddened. Brando Walker was a truly great person, who had a great spirit, who was kind, who cared about everyone, who loved with his whole heart. I could go on and tell stories about him, but the point is, the world will truly be a darker place with him gone. Darker for all the people whose lives Brando touched, for all those people who loved him, all his friends and his family who he loved and loved him in return, the people who he could have changed for the better had his life not been taken away from us. There was no room at Brando's funeral because it was so full of people whose lives he changed and helped, friends he loved, and so much more, people who greatly miss him. The hardest thing I have done in 28 years that I have been alive was to string the rosary to my brother's coffin as he was lowered into the ground, never to see the great things that life has to offer again. The pain and heartbreak I felt that day, watching my brother of 18 lowered into the earth, I would not wish upon anyone, for it can never be taken back. That part of the heart disappears forever. It gets lowered into the ground with that person. I really wish I could fill all these pages with all the hurt that will be endured by all those affected by Brando's murder, including myself. and the stories of the lives that he has touched and made better. But I am not going to. What I'm going to do is hope that in this life granted by God, and the power invested those appointed to serve justice, and those who serve to protect the innocent from evils in this world, will take into consideration this statement and the great loss that we have all endured, and deal with the amount of justice that can be served to those individuals for taking the life of another human in cold blood, for taking the life of a child who had yet to become an adult, who had yet to become a man, for taking the life of my little brother Brando.